Hey everybody!
Hello!
It's Heather and Ernie back again for another edition of Funhouse Fridays. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank everybody out there for all the love and support. We've now reached 600 Facebook likes.
Yes.
So we're getting there. We're climbing. Our goal is to get to 1,000 pretty soon. So keep those likes coming. We appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for all the comments and the questions and everything. And continue to do that. Send those to us. And today, what we want to kind of do is start out by talking a little bit about what we've been talking about and go from there. So over the past 7 weeks now, we've covered a lot of ground and a lot of topics, and we started with kind of telling you about who Ernie and I are, our experience in the business, the studio, what we do here, and then we took you the second week on a tour of the studio, kind of gave you an inside look into how we're set up here at Funhouse, all the different equipment and things that we have. And then the next week we talked about song selection and pre-production and the importance of that. Pre-production, we cannot stress enough how important that is to take care of all of that before you actually come into the studio to lay down your songs. And then the next week we gave you kind of a cost breakdown, let you know, okay, what do I need to budget for? You know, what is it going to cost me to come into the studio and record? Everything from the musicians to the background vocals, the mixing, the mastering, the union fees, all that stuff we covered.
Basically talking about doing a CD project.
Yes.
So that's what we were talking about. But we broke it down so that it was easily understood how much you can expect to pay per song. We would welcome any questions about any of this, the topics that we've just covered up to now, and you can even go back and review our past broadcasts so that you can catch up if you'd like.
Yeah, definitely do
They're
that.
They're not real long. They're what, average 20, 30 minutes?
20 to 30 minutes or so. Yeah, we try to keep them, kind of short, and there's just a lot of ground to cover sometimes, and we're trying to kind of hit the highs and the lows, and then sometimes we're gonna, on certain episodes, we're gonna go back and kind of focus in on something more specific. One of my favorite weeks was when we did the whole number chart. So Ernie actually took a very familiar song and charted it out live on Facebook and kind of showed everybody what is the Nashville number system and why is that so valuable when you're in a session. And then last week, a lot of people enjoyed the episode that Ernie did on copyrights. What does that mean for you as a songwriter? How to protect your songs? And then performance right organizations. So BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, what are those and why do you need to be a member and how will that help you? So today we thought we would kind of talk about the publishing side.
Yeah. We want to focus in on and take it from people who might be aspiring to just be a songwriter of their own music, or perhaps someone who just has done it as a hobby and would like to record some of their songs to have as a keepsake or to just see how they sound fully demoed, fully recorded production-wise. But we also want to talk about the publishing side as, do you have to have a publisher if you're a songwriter out there? And the answer to that question is kind of twofold, yes and no. It's kind of both sides of the coin. You can be your own publisher if you'd like. And the PROs will allow you, I think, I know BMI does, allow you to collect the publisher share through your writer channel connection. So at ASCAP, you might have to form a publishing company, but that just means you come up with a unique name that no one else has to incorporate, you don't have to be incorporated, but it might be wise if you're going to compete on a major level. But so you can have your own publishing company if you want, but a lot of people, especially when I first came to Nashville, were aspiring to be a signed writer with a publisher. That used to be I guess the height for some writers, because a lot of writers aren't performers. They just write. They aren't very good singers, say. Don't perform their own material, and they aspire to have their songs recorded by other artists. Years ago, I moved to Nashville in the 70s, so it was booming as far as songwriters and publishers. Independent publishers were everywhere. it seemed every house on Music Row for 3 or 4 streets here, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th, were all full of publishing houses and songwriters writing every day. There are a lot of songwriters that still write, but the music business has changed quite a bit. There are not nearly as many independent publishers as there used to be. The landscape has shrunk a little bit with the absorbance of major publishers buying up smaller publishers, and if they've been successful, that's been the case. So it's made it a whole lot harder for a writer to come into this town and get a publishing deal to have a draw and really make a living from your songwriting. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's just really hard.
Well, back in the day, was it easier in the sense that couldn't you like come to Nashville with your little catalog of songs and pretty much just walk down Music Row and go into the different places and give your music, or you could even probably like send it through mail, and it was more likely, because it was kind of a more consolidated, condensed business back then, to get it to the right places.
The doors were open a whole lot more back then, and people did listen. You could walk in sometimes and actually get your material heard live without an appointment. That wouldn't be the case today.
No, now you're kind of fighting the whole money.
You've got all the big money people, the big money corporations that have bought up the smaller publishers that have been successful, and it's consolidated into almost a big three of companies that umbrella several other companies, and that also is a reflection of the record business as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the record companies actually own the company, the publishing companies. So, but as an independent, you come to this town, say, and try to get something going, and if you can make a mark on your own, then people will start to notice you. But you will have to have a song recorded by someone with enough people know well enough, notoriety, so that they can be heard and your song can actually generate income, and then you might get picked up by a major publisher or a large independent, what few are left. But so it's pretty hard to do. I would say that coming to this town today, it would be if you really want to do it, you have to really want to do it, because there's no guarantee that you're going to be heard in a short period of time. I would say give it. I really hate to even put a time limit on it, because if you love this business, you love the music business, and you want to make it your life, then dedicate yourself to coming to Nashville without any time constraints.
Yes.
Because if you start saying, well, I'm going to give it 6 months, or I'm going to give it a year, or even 2 years, you might be right on the verge of something happening when you give up and go home. So
yes.
But you got to be dedicated. You got to be dedicated to wanting it that bad.
Yes.
So how bad do you want it? If you want it bad enough to come here and dedicate your dream to being in Nashville until something happens, then by all means, give it all you got. And it's a network business. You get to know people through the contacts that you're able to make from wherever you are, as far as the ladder of success, if you want to call it that. You're not going to write with the major ladders, successful writers that are up here on the ladder if you've just gotten to town. You've got to do something to bridge that gap, or to climb those stairs until you get to that even point to where they think you're bringing something to the table, in a great idea or whatever, and you're able to carry your weight in a writing session. So you're just not going to jump into writing with the big boys, so to speak, initially. And likewise, the major publishers aren't going to be interested in you unless you have some stripes on your shoulder, so to speak, some success. So dedicate yourself to really wanting to be here, and come in here and work hard and be smart about what you do. Study the business, understand what's going on. Belmont University is a great school to be close in proximity to Music Row, as well as learning some great things about the music business. MTSU has a great program as well in Murfreesboro, Middle Tennessee State University I'm talking about. North Alabama has one down in, I think it's in Florence, Alabama, which is only an hour and a half away from here. So all those things are integral parts in the dedication it takes to be a successful songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And there are no guarantees.
No.
But the things that you do to become a better songwriter, or really be a good listener and a good watch other people that are successful. What are they doing to make it happen? Mm-hmm. The real successful songwriters write every day.
Yes.
Like a job.
Yes.
Almost like 9 till 5. And
just constantly thinking, even if it's not a full song, they're, writing down a hook or writing down a melody or, writing down 2 or 3 lines that are just, great, and then coming back to it.
Right.
And
co-writes. A lot of those people co-write, and a co-write is kind of a test. You have to make sure you're compatible with somebody to write with them, and sometimes it works great. Sometimes it doesn't work very well. But and another thing that happens a whole lot are artists that get signed to record deals, like people on The Voice and the other
American
talent
Idol
shows, American Idols. Mm-hmm. They'll be signed to a label and come to Nashville, the ones that are in country music anyway, and those labels or their management or someone involved in their career will pair them with great songwriters here.
Yes.
And they will become songwriters themselves as a result. I'm not sure sometimes how great a songwriter they truly are at first, but if they offer the opportunity to have songs recorded on their new project for Warner Brothers or RCA or whomever it is, then that writer has that access to them, an inside track to trying to get something on their project, and that's a lot of what it's all about.
But keep writing. As Ernie will tell you, as a songwriter himself, you never know when you're going to come up with that brilliant song and that little gem. So just keep writing. Keep at it, because the more you do it, like anything else, the better you're going to get.
I can quote Mel Tillis, who was one of the greatest songwriters ever to come to Nashville. He had many, many hit songs, including songs like "Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town" for
you were a little like Mel Tillis just then.
Yeah, I did. I had a little Mel Tillis.
You stuttered a little.
But he wrote "Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town," which was a huge hit for Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, what an interesting song.
And he also wrote a song with a friend of his named Danny Deal called "Detroit City." And I've heard Mel in concert say that those 2 songs were gifts from God. And I believe that too. I believe you have to have your antenna up, so to speak, and be receptive to the ideas coming.
Dolly Parton is one of those artists. If you ever hear her interviewed and talk about songwriting, because she's also a fantastic female songwriter that's really, opened a lot of doors in this town for female artists, but she says she writes every single day.
Oh, I'm sure.
No matter what. I mean, if it's just a word or an idea or a hook, she writes every single day.
Yeah, I find myself waking up in the middle of the night and having ideas, and I've lost many of those ideas because I didn't get up and write them down. If you think you're going to remember them the next morning, I would suggest you get up too if you've got a great idea that you've come up with, or a line, or whatever it is. Your mind sometimes does let you down when you try to recall those after a night's sleep or a few more hours sleep, if that's the case. But so if you're coming to town, you certainly want to be around songwriters. Songwriters nights are kind of a double-edged sword to me. I think that there are a great opportunity to expose your material to other writers and to people in general that are in the music business, but they also expose your songs to other writers who might take your idea. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Maybe I'm being a little paranoid there, but I've never been one to play a lot of songwriters nights, and but I'm also not a Craig Wiseman with 100 hits under my belt, so perhaps I should have, looking back. But it's just whatever anybody feels comfortable doing, and the more people you can get to know, interact with, and make relationships with that will help you write better, make better writing appointments, possibly writing with those people. Just remember that you've got to bring something to the table. And it may be a great hook that you've been sitting on, and you have this opportunity to meet a songwriter that you really would like to write with, but aren't sure if you're really capable of bringing your ability up to theirs in a writing session. you could actually bring a great idea to someone, and they can either say yes or no. And but that's dedication and determination are all a major part of anything, I guess, anybody chooses to do in a profession. But songwriting is certainly one of those that if you're going to try to be a published songwriter, then you're going to have to work hard at it and be very dedicated to the craft.
And talking about the whole songwriting and publishing thing, that kind of all circles back to recording.
It does.
Because if you have some great songs that you want to get pitched and you want to get heard and you want to get out there, you want to have the best possible recording of that song you can. And you can talk a little bit about that. Like, how important is it when you're pitching your song for it to be professionally recorded?
I'm a firm believer that you've got to make it sound like a hit as well.
There you go.
A hit has got to sound like a hit.
Right.
And I'm not sure that sometimes people don't get fooled by a great demo or a great recording. But it's let them be fooled.
Yes.
A cut's a cut. You
right.
know, if you get something on a project, and you have to remember that when a song is on a project, if your song, say for instance, is on a project for let's just say Little Big Town, and their song was called Girl Crush, just for an example, which was a huge successful song for them. It makes no more money on the sale of that project, that CD, than any of the other songs do. So each one makes 9.1 cents, and that's split between the publisher and the writer. Now, that's not to say that they're not going to make a whole lot of money off the airplay from BMI or ASCAP, depending on who had or CSAC, depending on which performing rights organization that song was assigned to. But all those other songs are carried by those singles that sell, really highlight the album so that it can sell.
Yeah. So when you have that opportunity to get your songs in front of someone that matters, that's important, that can help take them somewhere, you want to have the best product that you can. So having a full band and having that entire production is gonna sell that more so than just you and a guitar.
Right, I think so too, and we try to help people coming to Funhouse if they're uncertain about their songs or whatever. We'll help you determine whether a song has an opportunity to make money for you. And although that's not an exact science, we'll certainly give you the benefit of our experience. So I think that's important too in the process. So keep that in mind. And this all kind of leads to, well, let's talk just a little bit there. Heather, you mentioned it on trying to get your songs to artists. I've heard stories where bus drivers, maids, anybody that can access that artist for you is a channel for pitching your material. So don't look down on any opportunity. I don't think you should chase people down at Kroger or in the parking lot or whatever. I think that's a little bit too pushy and maybe scary to some artists, because I'm sure they get approached a lot by...
Then they would just be offended and not want to hear your stuff.
and so you be discreet about the way you do it. Go through the proper channels if you can, but also use maybe the channels that are not so common to everyday pitching, which also leads to another thing we can talk about a little bit. Who's going to pitch your songs for you? If you have a major publishing deal or an independent deal, hopefully they'll have song pluggers, as they're called, to actually pitch your songs to labels and artists to try to gain recordings on your songs. I think that any avenue that you can access the artist is a great idea to go for, and help the song pluggers do their job, because they're not going to be the end all be all for getting cuts. They will get you cuts, hopefully, but that's not to say that they can do it all by themselves. You use every opportunity and access that you have to gain entry to having your songs heard by an artist or a group or whomever you're pitching it to.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing is to get somebody's ear.
Right, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And you know, connections, knowing people that know people, because you know someone's going to listen to someone they know and someone they trust more so than just a stranger. So you know, reach out to those connections, make those connections, and network, and then you know follow through with it.
Typically, you're pitching to A&R directors at labels, which stands for artist and repertoire. And what they do is they listen. They have a list of their artists and what type songs they're looking for, and so you'll pitch to the label, to the A&R people, you'll pitch to management, you'll pitch to producers, you'll pitch again to band members or anybody else that can access that artist and get an audience for them to hear the song. You know, so any way you can imagine has probably been done before, and just don't be too pushy with what you're trying to do, and then have something that's worthy too. If you've been told that your song didn't rise to that level by several industry professionals, then it probably doesn't. But if you believe in it, and even if someone has told you that it's not that good, get some more opinions, some more professional opinions, and hopefully you'll understand where you are in the pecking order of who's going to get cuts and who's not. That's not to say, let's back up a little bit. Independent artists, you may have a style that's not really commercially Nashville for the artists that are recording here, but you feel like you have a niche somewhere out there. Then yes, definitely put your songs together, and if you're going to be an aspiring artist as well, build you a following of your own.
Yes.
Today we're just inundated with social media, just like we're using here, to reach people with whatever we're trying to give them, and your music can do the same thing with Facebook Live concerts, with YouTube videos and lyric videos, things that don't cost that much, but really have an opportunity to reach people and find your niche out there. And then when you get ready to record, we hope you'll come to Funhouse and let us assist you in putting your music into the best form we can to have a CD that you can be really proud of. And on the artist side of things, if you're an aspiring artist, it almost reflects exactly the way the publishing side does, or the songwriting side. Trying to find a major publisher, trying to find a major label is very much the same thing. They're looking for people who have a great deal of exposure already through the television media. That's why you see a lot of the artists that come off of the huge talent shows become successful, because people already know who they are.
They have a built-in audience already.
Right. And so a major label is very interested in that. And
because unfortunately, I feel like in today's music business, it is what you already bring to the table and what money you bring to the table, more so sometimes than it is what talent you bring to the table. You know, back in the day, I think a lot of labels and stuff, they were all about the artist and their voice and their style and the songs that they brought. You know, unfortunately nowadays it's more about what do you already bring.
How far are you along? And you can build a following, like I said, with the social media opportunities that are out there, to a point to where a major label sees you and says, hey, we're interested in trying to develop you as an artist and further what you've already started. So all of that's a part of it as well. And you just got to be dedicated, people. You can't do this half-heartedly.
Like everything in this business, you know, when people find out, you know, that I own a recording studio, they're always like, oh, that must be fun, that must be exciting. And I'm like, yeah, but what people don't understand is everything in the music business is hard. You know, everybody thinks that people that come here to be artists, like just trying to be an artist is hard and everything else is not. But whether you're trying to be a studio musician or a touring musician or an engineer or a songwriter, everything, it's all hard.
It is.
It's all challenging nowadays.
It's a life's work, and a dedicated life's work that you've got to make up your mind. That's what I want to do, and I'm going to go for it all out. So,
and everybody forgets about the songwriters and stuff a lot of times, and everybody focuses on the artist, but there would be no artist without great songs.
Well,
so it all starts with a song. The songwriters are the important people, but thank goodness, like Ernie said, for all of the internet and social media outlets and everything, because that is literally an independent artist's best friend.
Well, it is. It opens the door for you being heard.
Yes.
When before we never had those things.
I mean, you can get heard and get indoors, and people across the world hear you. Like they never could before. That's what Vince Gill was saying a while back is, how amazing the whole internet thing is, because now people can get their music out like never before. Used to, you had to be on a major label. You had to have them, putting your CDs in Walmart and Target and putting you on the radio. But now with social media and the internet and websites and all of that, you can kind of do your own grassroots approach to everything.
Yeah, the digital downloads, there are opportunities out there for your music. Just many different outlets. If you want to really focus on and develop a plan to try to expose your music, and so I would suggest you listen to all these things that we're trying to share with you. And if you are determined that you want to be in the music business as a songwriter, artist, or an artist or a songwriter separately, then come on to Nashville and be a part of it, but be dedicated. And don't forget, we're here. We're glad to talk to you. There are other people in town that will talk to you as well, at the Songwriters Associations and so forth, that are here to help build the songwriter up and explain what they need to do to take the next step. So keep those things in mind, and review our other shows, our other Facebook Fridays that have shared some information. Send us your questions, and if you're going to come to Nashville, come by and see us. We'd be glad to visit with you.
Yeah, because one thing I will say, about Ernie and I that we're very proud of, and that's kind of one of the reasons we're doing this whole Funhouse Fridays, is we want to kind of give you insight and knowledge and help and share our experience and knowledge with you to hopefully help make the road to Nashville a little bit better and a little bit easier for you. And, I was talking to our engineer the other day, and he was saying, what a great outlet he thought this was that we're doing for artists and songwriters out there. And, when it comes down to it, it's all about quality. And that's one thing I think you'll find here at Funhouse that you might not find other places. There's a lot of other studios and a lot of other producers in town, but the extra time and attention that Ernie especially will give you in your songs is priceless. So, when you come here, we're going to give you the best sound, the best product, the best quality we possibly can. We're, going to take the time to sit down with you and make sure that your songs are the best they can be before they're recorded. So, it's not just like we're going to bring you in and just, run your song through and then be done with it.
Right, and we're also going to be very clear as to how we spend your money that you bring. I think it's real important to make sure that you understand where your money's going. If someone gives you a big or just a lump sum budget, how do you know what that's being spent for?
Right.
If it's being spent in your best interest, and you'll never wonder that with us. I'm totally clear on that, and you'll know where every penny goes. So keep that in mind. I almost think that's a red flag sometimes when people give you a blanket figure, and you don't know exactly what's going on. So figure that out, and come see us as soon as you can. CMA week this week in Nashville. Had a great big CMA
That's
awards.
been the big thing. Unfortunately, we couldn't attend.
Yes.
Maybe next time. We had to just, I had to actually tape it and, watch it later. But I somehow managed to get a CMA book. I'm pretty excited about that. So, but for those of you that watched it, let us know what you thought. I thought a couple of the highlights, if you saw the awards, they actually did the tribute, Little Big Town, did the tribute to Glenn Campbell. So I thought that was fantastic to do that. And then if any of you saw Miranda Lambert's performance, hers was one of the only, I thought, more traditional
other than Alan Jackson
country, other than Alan Jackson. And you know, that was kind of sad. Alan Jackson was pretty much the only like traditional country artist represented there. I'm like, where's George Strait? You know,
yeah, that would have been nice.
Where's everybody else? But, you know, would love to know your thoughts on the CMA Award. So that's always a big week in Nashville. You know, people come from all over for the award. So that's an exciting time. And then we spent the week here at Funhouse. Ernie actually did a fantastic demo session earlier in the week. Some great songwriters and songs, speaking of. And then he's been busy all week here in the studio laying down vocals and background vocals. So
yeah, and they turned out really well. We're excited about, and we're going to be, by the way, probably breaking that down a little bit more, talking to some individual musicians in the future.
Yes.
I think Rodney Engel is going to come in.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have Rodney next week.
And talk a little bit about what he does behind the board and the super way he handles things.
So interesting.
And one of the most talented people I've ever met. So it'll be great to have him and some other people like that are actually playing on the sessions. Well, we also have talked to a music attorney here that is going to come on and share some insight into copyright and intellectual properties, trademark, that kind of thing. So a lot of things on the horizon, and we'd love to have your feedback to let us know what you think about what we're doing.
Yes.
And any questions or comments, directions, we'd be glad to have those. So
absolutely,
let us know. And
again, thank you all so much for all the likes, for sharing, for commenting on the videos. Please continue to do that.
Yes.
You know, watch them again and again. Go back and revisit our past episodes. And, you know, if you have questions from those, send those as well. But we greatly appreciate everybody and helping us with this endeavor and letting us continue to do this every Friday. So on that note, until next week, we'll see you.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.